Hello and welcome to the Smite Spring Console LAN. Finch here. I've got Anatoly with me as well. And boy, do we have a day chock full of console action. So go ahead and buckle in. There's going to be tons to watch today.
We just saw the PC side of things, and last week, fantastic showing by both Dignitas and Rival out of the European side of things. Now transitioning over to the console side, we got a lot of epic action here. There was 4 weeks of action beforehand to finish things off here at the Spring Split.
Yeah, that's right. You mentioned some of those strong SPL teams. We got a pretty strong Rival roster, kind of their own over here on the box that we're going to be looking at a little bit later on today. So there's plenty of action there. But don't worry, there's plenty of action for you all at home as well. We do have a big event that's going to be coming up. We're going to be HRX at DreamHack, going to be happening in November, the 16th to the 18th. So go ahead and grab your tickets now. Not only are you going to get to see the Smite World Championship and the Console World Championship, but Paladins is going to have tons of events going on as well. So just a great value.
Really excited about the console side of things here.
Oh, yeah.
Today between these 4 teams. There's going to be a lot of competitive action because the way these teams really roll out, they're very volatile in what they really want to deploy. They're also very loud and emotional at times, but luckily for us here at hi-rez Studios, we have a new studio and there's player sound booths, so not going to have that same element of surprise where you can kind of trash talk the opposition, so maybe some quietness here at the console.
It might be a little bit easier for everyone else in the arena perhaps, right, Totally, because you could be way on the other side of the building and hear these players popping off. That's just how passionate they are about being able to come in and show just how hard they've been working. And really, they all have been. It's been things have been a little bit different here for them on their side. And it's been a grind getting all the way through. But we do have the 4 teams that have made it here to this LAN. We're going to be looking at Elevate and Astro. Those are the ones coming from North America, as well as Rival and Fable. Those are the ones that are coming from EU.
And going through the open bracket, it was a long 4-week process to get there. But this time around here, they finally made it. These are your top 4 teams, 2 from North America, 2 from Europe. Elevate doing a good job trumping that Astral Authority team that finished 2nd at Worlds.
Yeah, and that Astral team did have to make a couple changes throughout the split, so even though they have maybe a lot of names that you definitely recognize from Astral that was at Worlds last year, right, and you might be a little surprised Elevate made it out. Elevate have been consistently looking good. It's actually not that big of a surprise, and Astral's had a couple changes, so we'll see how they end up matching up here at the actual event. But as you saw there, Totally, it is going to be double elimination here, so we're actually going to have 4 best-of-3 sets today. It's going to be tough for these teams.
Endurance is going to be a key factor for a lot of these teams. We saw what it did last week in the PC side. Rival was definitely all over the board. The European squad of the PC just on top of their endurance. Even though they lost 3 to Dignitas, they bounced back and beat Space Station Gaming, and then losing again to Dignitas a little bit there, and then having to win 3 in a row. And that could easily happen in the upper bracket finals there because it's going to be a best-of-5 with a 1-game advantage.
Yeah, it's going to be very similar to what we saw on the PC side of things, but what's not going to be similar is going to be the actual format for the Summer Console League that's going to be happening here in the summer. So it's going to be similar at least to the SPL in that it will be the best-of-3 matches and double round robin, but now it's only 4 teams per regions. So instead of like the series format we saw in spring, we're going to have those same 4 teams that we can look forward to seeing all week.
A lot of these teams can breathe easier now knowing that they don't have to go through that open bracket, even like week in and week out, because that takes a lot of time out of your day or just the endurance levels and trying to battle that. They definitely are prepared now as a result, but having more higher tier competition is what we're trying to display.
Yeah, I think this should it's something that they definitely wanted, and as you see here, we're going to be seeing 2 matches from them per week. That'll be happening on Monday, so make sure that you check that out. We're actually switching over to a whole new broadcast schedule just in general that you're going to want to make sure that you're jotting down so you can see exactly when all these games are happening. But console in particular, that'll be Monday. We'll get to see both matches happening there starting at 11.
And a lot of SPL action as well from Monday through Friday. You know, grab some popcorn, grab some drinks here because it's going to be a fiesta.
Well, you did see, though, when we had the bracket up there earlier, that it is going to be Elevate and Fable. That's going to be the first match that we're going to be taking a look at here today. So the number 1 in A going up against the number 2 in EU. This Fable roster, though, I wouldn't count them out. They do have some names you recognize, but this Elevate roster, I mean, don't they feel stacked? I mean, DoctorL, Crimson is here on this roster as well. Nexamiss, I mean, they got tons of talent.
Oh, absolutely. They're really solid in the way they were able to transition from Season 4 to Season 5. I think in Season 5, considering it's a jungle role, the transition that DoctorL has been able to do from solo to jungle has already been good enough in Season 4, but now, whereas dictating the pacing of the game here, his creativity with this god selection and his item builds has allowed Elevate to really soar over the competition.
Well, Elevate, we actually had a chance to hear some of their thoughts before they came into their first set here today, so we got the interview with them standing by.
Hey, what's up, guys? Elevate, glad to have you here. First question, as you guys come to LAN, you look fantastic during the regular season. How do you plan on transitioning that here at LAN?
We plan to play the same as we did online, and hopefully we come out with first place. That's our goal.
I mean, DoctorL, you've been to a lot of LANs now playing on the console side of things, and you usually seem to perform pretty well here. Most of your team has some LAN experience, but how do you kind of imbue that knowledge onto your teammates to know how to play in these sorts of environments?
I'm not too worried about that. All of my teammates, except for Hamster here, has been to LAN, and they all have performed well at LANs before. And online, we don't play well in scrims that well, but we always do good in real games when it matters. So I think it'll transfer over to the LAN as well.
Touching on what you just said, Hamster, this is one of your first times at LAN. Just talk to me about the experience.
It's been pretty cool so far. Meeting all the Astro guys and seeing my teammates like real life. It's pretty cool. I've never been to like a LAN for any other games, so it's pretty exciting. Ready to play.
You guys go up against Fable in the first matchup. What have you seen from them? What are you expecting from them?
I'm expecting them to have some kind of weird invade early, maybe with the first game, but I expect an easy 2-0.
And from there, the bigger question I want to ask about teams is regions, right? When you're dealing with some of the other guys across the pond, the European side, how differently do you approach the game there?
When we play different regions, the game tends to be slower because we don't really know how they play or what they are going to do when we do certain things or how they react to plays that we make. So usually the first game we kind of just feel it out, and then the second game just try to run them over.
You guys just got to see the Masters LAN. That was our first big LAN of Season 5. Now you can kind of maybe watch what they did, learn from it. Is there anything you took from Masters? Is it kind of the meta you expected to see from the SPL teams, or do you think it'll be a different meta here on the console side?
I think our picks will probably be somewhat the same as PC. I know for NA at least, EU on PC was running like Afro Solo and stuff. We don't do that, but we're expecting that out of the console guys on the EU side, so we're pretty ready for that if they do pull it out.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us, and good luck today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you heard some confidence there between Hamster and DoctorL, and I think it's well-earned. This Elevate roster has looked strong and predicting that they can come off with an early 2-0. But you also heard them alluding to it, though, Totally. They have experience on this roster in LAN environments in particular.
And that's going to be a huge plus going up against Fable that doesn't really have too much LAN experience. Auzrik from the jungle side definitely does. He's been into several LANs, but that Elevate interview, they're going to be playing their own game. I could just tell that they're worried about that early game cheese potential, the invade strats. You heard that from DoctorL. So that means the mid to late game should be a solid performance out of Elevate. Even though they don't win scrims, they win the games that truly matter, and that's what got them that one little trump card over Astral Authority.
I feel like that's something we hear a little bit more of, though, right? That maybe scrims aren't always going your way, but you can turn it on when it really matters. And that's what is important in environments like this, especially in double elimination brackets, right? When you could potentially be playing tons of games, is being able to turn it on when it matters. And clearly, that's something that this Elevate roster is capable of doing. As you said, Crimson was one of the strongest looking mid laners last year in Season 4. DoctorL is someone that has tons of experience as well for them, and has looked great for them in the jungle so far. So we'll see how well they can translate that here up against Fable.
And alluding to a little bit of their picks and bans was, they're not interested in the Aphrodite solo lane the same way the European PC side was. So probably leaning towards more standard kind of strategies and seeing what they can do here in the duo lane. The first jungler to really make that presence should swing the tide, because Fable EU, I'm looking at their roster here. They have Killy 1108 and then Davey 1108. I don't know about you, Finch, but whenever I see two players in the duo lane that have the same prefix to their name, I'm a little worried that, they've got a lot of experience under their belt. So if I'm DoctorL, I'm going to try to lean on that dual lane.
Yeah, try and slow them down. I mean, if it's early where they're worried about this Fable roster doing well, then potentially getting over there and dictating the pace on that side of the map could sort of alleviate that. If you can decide where the fights are going to happen, that could maybe slow down some of what Fable is planning. But speaking of Fable and what's going on in their mindset right now, we actually have the interview with the Fable boys standing by for you as well.
Boys from Fable, thanks for joining us. You guys go up against Elevate in your first match today. They're the first seed in North America. They've won most of the weekly tournaments in NA so far. What have you seen from them, and how do you plan on attacking them?
To prioritize like pressure in solo lane and jungle, so probably try and count on that. There's a lot of pressure as well.
Pressure's going to be the key. Definitely pressure. Early game, especially first games coming into LAN. You obviously want to hit them hard, hit them early. So pressure, 100%.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about what your strategies are for the weekend. Obviously, how do you feel about your chances, first of all, I guess, in this tournament?
If we play our style that we've scrimmed with, obviously, we've got a good chance of winning. I mean, better chance than everyone thinks, anyway. But obviously, if comms don't go well and how we play don't go well, we're just going to be stomped.
We definitely have a game plan. So if we stick to it, I think we can definitely win. I think prediction, I would say 2-1. Obviously, coming with like the rookie team kind of coming in, we have 2 rookie players. But if we stick to a game plan, 100% we can win.
Rival has been the talk of the town in Europe all season long, and for good reason. Have you guys been practicing against them in particular coming up to this LAN? And what have you learned this split from just playing against those guys?
Yeah, we're kind of scrim partners with them. So they literally know everything we do. So scrimming against them sometimes can be difficult because we know our game plan and we know how we play, but they know how we play too. But I think playing against like that type of player, the caliber of player in Rival, obviously it helps us out with having like 2 rookies coming in.
Talking about rookies, obviously you guys here as a team, is it one of your first times in America for some of you guys out here? How are you finding America so far?
Oh, I love it.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it about America that you like?
It's just better than England.
Okay.
Hindu, you don't want to follow up with that at all? No? You agreed? Oh, you're nodding? Okay, thank you, Hindu, for agreeing with that. Guys, thanks for joining us. Good luck against Elevate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Boys they can rely on those Fable boys to say what I've been telling Graham now for as long as I've been here, that the United States really is just better
It
than
must
England.
be the weather,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
George has been stepping it up a little bit. You know, a little bit of rain finally fading away. We got the sunshine, and the Fable boys are here to play.
What the fuck was that? I hear him laughing. It was just like...
Yeah, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Though we are ready to go to this next one here. It's going to be Fable going up against Elevate. And we got to hear from those Fable boys. They did have some confidence, even though they don't have maybe a ton of experience here at this point. They definitely sound like they're confident in their jungle solo pressure. If they can get that going early, they feel good about their chances.
ChronicTheBros, the solo laner there up against Auzrik in the jungle, or with Auzrik in the jungle, I think is the key element towards Fable's success here. Nexamiss is a player that's going to look to play aggressive. If given the opportunity, he's going to pick a natural aggressive warrior, so could potentially look to try to punish that if he's overextending, playing under the tower line. Fable EU, that would be the strategy that I'm personally looking for up against Elevate.
And this is why I liked your idea to maybe put some attention onto Davey and Killy over there in the duo lane. If they're constantly forcing the fights to happen, then that does kind of mess up the solo jungle pressure that the Fable boys are trying to get up. It's a little bit harder for them to try and sit on that side of the map if Elevate are constantly forcing them to fight elsewhere, as we are into picks and bans here for game 1 between Elevate and Fable. And already we are seeing, I would say, some of the traditional bans get the Achilles out of there and the Athena.
We saw a lot of different just metas in general from last week in the PC side, where Athena started to skyrocket in the picks and bans. Ra was taken away from a certain player, specifically Wolfie, out of Rival. So not going to be the case probably for the Ra here out of Elevate. Crimson can definitely play a lot of other gods than just a Ra. Probably want to ban something a little bit more standard.
That's right. Almost every game against Rival was like with the Athena Ra, wasn't it? Like banning that out to try and, or Terra Ra, depending on if you were second pick. But Serket and Robin going to be the next bans. And right when I mentioned it, Terra is the one that comes through. Kind of a tough spot for Fable. I mean, would you rather have Serket running around the map or Terra? So they kind of picked their poison, so to say, and Terra is the one that ends up making it through.
Last Breath is definitely annoying for solo lane side, so I'm not surprised to see that stripped away, especially when your idea is to camp the solo lane, and just we were alluding to Fable leaning towards their solo jungle side. It's going to be important for Elevate to recognize the idea here and make sure that they don't get aggressed and bullied too hard too early.
Yeah, it really is clear where Fable is confident at, right? They go right ahead and pick Chulainn and the Nemesis, so they got their solo jungle, and that is a good bit of pressure. Chulainn can be very strong in lane, and the Nemesis with the rotations can make it a little bit easier if they actually do want to gank the solo lane. It might be slightly easier than it normally is with that help from the Divine Judgment. So we'll see if that is going to be the call from them as Donji and Odin come out. Is this Odin pick a little early here? I mean, talk to me about this.
It is being picked early. It is just a Nemesis that couldn't get away from the cage right off the bat. And with the Janus selection, there's going to be a lot of team fights around those walls, having to portal certain allies away. Phantom doesn't necessarily need to be picked up early depending where this Odin goes.
Right.
But with the Terra selected, those are all three frontliners between Terra, Dodgy, Odin. With Terra's ultimate change not being global anymore, we haven't seen too much solo lane Terra, so I'm kind of leaning that it's going to be an Odin solo for Nexamiss.
Yeah, that is what it feels like going up against the Chulainn is going to be the Odin matchup. But as you said, he might not get then the big impact from his chain as early on, or from the cage rather. Sure, Nemesis has a hard time getting out of it, so maybe if there is jungle pressure there, he can kind of lock her down, but we'll see how well that Nexamiss will be able to pilot that solo lane matchup as Fable turn their attention towards Ullr and Agni. I don't know, I kind of feel like those are both mid lane bans at this point, right, with how much Ullr is played in the mid lane.
And that's something that a lot of Europeans will see in the North American metas, like, oh, they like double hunters. Ullr definitely provides a lot of pressure in the mid lane, physical hunters against magical mid laners. Favors the hunter in the early stages. Those basic attacks just deal more damage.
Yeah.
And if you can able to avoid the minion waves, just box 1v1, hunters will dominate.
Yeah, they can establish so much pressure in the mid lane, can those hunters, and start stripping away jungle, and that's where the lead can start sort of snowballing into other areas of the map, as Ram is going to be the selection for Fable, a hunter who's certainly risen in the ranks here these last few weeks. And then Camazotz, Soul. And these are two picks that we haven't seen as much of lately, actually.
Soul, I like the idea here, but Camazotz, that's 4 frontliners for Elevate. This leads me to believe that it's going to be an aggressive duo lane out of Elevate. So it's going to be Terra. It could be Terra. Odin? No, Odin has to be mid here, probably. Camazotz has to be solo lane. Dodgy in the jungle, because Camazotz solo can definitely work. Dodgy, you don't really put her anywhere besides the jungle, so it has to be the Camazotz in the solo with Odin mid.
It certainly could be. I mean, I think we've seen Camazotz played in the mid as well. So, I mean, there's certainly some options for this Elevate squad at this point, huh? As Fable lock in the Fafnir for themselves as the last pick, who certainly can be strong in his own right, helping to set things up. And Draconic Corruption can make him very safe as well. But you're seeing both these rosters here in front of you, not based on teams, just based on these rosters, Toli. Which draft are you liking better?
Based on the comp, I like Fable's composition a little bit better.
Sure.
Safer with the Janus through space and time, the threshold mobility. You got to lean on the European side here.
Well, let's see if Fable are going to be able to find a victory here up against Elevate, or if the top team will close it out, because the casters are standing by.
Thanks a lot, Dask. Yeah, me and Taco are going to be bringing in this one here today for the start of this. Very interesting compositions between the two, mainly from the North American boys here of Elevate. Going with the Camazotz, we think is going to be in the dual lane.
I feel as though that's going to be a Camazotz ADC. It feels as though it'd be a little bit more fitting to throw the Soul into the mid lane, have her with a little bit more lane clear. Kind of risky trying to throw a melee-based god, whether it be the Odin or the Camazotz, into the mid lane. They'd probably struggle with clear and keeping up in farm, especially against the Janus, who has so much mobility.
Well, you guys in chat vote for who you think is going to win this one. We're already ready in game, so let's get this underway. The Console Spring Final Series is here, and at the start of the game, we're going to see a bit of invasion from both teams, but it looks like Elevate spotted Fable. Fable did not spot Elevate.
It is the mid lane Camazotz, though. Crimson going to be representing, and this is a bit of a risky take here, going against Waldrom on that Janus. Like we were just talking about, it can be really difficult for a melee-based god to try and match that mobility around the jungle for the early game farm.
However, though, I mean, it is going to be DoctorL and Crimson combined with 2 assassins in the mid lane, which can shut a Janus down in the early stages before he can hit that threshold of the ultimate, which is so important.
It's definitely going to need to be a little bit more of passive gameplay from Fable. Really taking into mind, though, that Waldrom, as long as he gets that portal level 2, he should be safe enough, at least during the laning phase, that he really should not be dying too much early on.
Well, opinions of the fans at home favors Elevate here. Maybe it's to do with the comp. Maybe it's because the North American, everyone seems to feel North American console is a little bit stronger than that of the European side. We'll see how this continues, though, beginning of the game. It's going to be the Warrior's Blessing for that Camazotz in mid lane. Crimson going to take that on the Camazotz to start things off. So he's looking to get those stacks and those extra protections.
That's a very wise pickup, because when you're playing the Camazotz in the mid lane, you have to establish lane dominance very early on, at least if you want to have some form of control over the Janus. And so the Warrior's Blessing is just going to mean that he's going to be able to sit there and poke out and not take too much damage in return from the wave.
Now, as well, take into account the console's a little bit trickier than that of PC in terms of some of the gods are trickier to handle and master. One specifically, Terra. She's very good, but she's not often picked because of the amount of control she gives with those ones. Oh my goodness me, Waldrom. Welcome to the mid lane, my friend. Meanwhile, ChronicTheBros is in trouble on the right.
And ChronicTheBros might not even be out just yet. DoctorL still giving chase, but Nexamiss slightly off the mark with that Odin jump. Gonna mean that Hugh won't be able to put the damage they need onto Chronic, but at least they'll be able to protect their own blue buff.
Crimson in the mid lane now going to get a bit of pressure put onto him by Auzrik on the Nemesis. Going to go straight into the jungle and steal away the red, which is still available. Obviously, we just saw elevate DoctorL on the right-hand side of the map. So it gave the opportunity for him to look to invade and get a bit of a lead early on for FableGG.
Chronic having so much pressure on the Chulainn is the primary reason why Auzrik is able to go for that red buff invade, because Chronic was already able to take his own blue, doesn't have to worry about losing the farm there. Auzrik, however, still looking to return some damage against DoctorL. DoctorL could be in a lot of trouble here.
Well, he's got a bit of support coming in. DoctorL is going to fall down now. Crimson under pressure thanks to the hammer that just came out from Chulainn. Waldrom comes back from the mid lane after escaping to pick up the second kill. FableGG off to a great start, and with a classic composition, something more standardized that we've seen before, this could put some pressure onto Elevate here.
We talked about how safe Janus can be, and double assassins, well, double the deaths. They didn't really have any form of escape like Waldrom, and all it took was one little slicing dice from Auzrik to make sure that everybody was slowed down, kept them in the general area, then Waldrom able to wrap back around. Beautiful rotation by Chulainn, though, especially.
And that's given FableGG a nice little lead now in this game based off that, because Davy's going to be at least even level in this lane. But those first kills, shutting down assassins, very important. Elevate, though, technically not out of it, no way out of it at this stage, Taco, especially with this Odin, which we were talking about how FableGG kind of just picked into it, not worried about it.
It can be kind of problematic in the team fighting stage, depending on how Nexamiss chooses to utilize that cage, but mostly going to be keeping an eye out for Davy during those engagements. Davy and Auzrik, I think, are the two primary candidates for the Odin ring, exactly. But Davy at least has that Astral Barrage, is going to be able to take him out of the fight, so he'll be able to sit up in the air during the duration of the ring. Might not necessarily be as much of a victim as Auzrik, but when you look at all of Elevate's composition as a whole, there isn't a whole lot of AoE damage, so Odin Cage, maybe not as much of a threat as we might think.
Well, it keeps him pinned in, so the rotations can maybe happen. Red buff invade from FableGG again. They got it the first time. Auzrik just rotated around, but we're going to have a fight here by the looks of it. Elevate looking to defend. DoctorL and Crimson on the way, but the buff already down and secured by FableGG. Picked up and rolled away as Davy, but here's the rotation from the duo lane now. White 98's in there, and he's got to be able to help get support for DoctorL to pick up a kill, but DoctorL overextended, and he should be punished.
DoctorL should be punished, but Crimson going to be able to knock him back. Also absorbing that Fafnir Hammerstone just to ensure that DoctorL gets out. And great punish there by Elevate. Fable, I don't think that Davy should have stayed as long as he did. He was a little bit out of position because he greeted the red buff.
He worried that red so bad. And in the end, it cost him his life. So that's going to give a bit more fun for Mr. White in the left-hand side. Got the Hunter's Blessing. And as well, by the looks of that, is that going to be a Bancroft you expect with that tiny trinket that he's picked up here?
Bancroft's on Soul is a pretty strong acquisition, so I wouldn't be too surprised, especially since he seems to be trying to build Soul more towards that auto-attack base. He started off with the Hunter's Blessing, partially for the MP5 that you can attain. And also, I just think that Soul can definitely benefit off of it. I mean, her passive is still pretty solid even after the nerf.
I mean, Soul's one of those characters that has the ability. He's very similar to Kronos, who play auto-attack based or magical ability based more often than not. So it's a nice little situation there. DoctorL, though, at the moment, about to hit level 5. Probably won't get it off this wave with sharing, but one more camp should do it. Speed buff available, and he'll be 5. Right-hand side, though, the ring is down, the ring is gone, and ChronicTheBros can turn that around now.
But he already got the transformation off, and the shield going to ensure that Nexamiss doesn't want to pursue any further aggression, just trading out ultimates really between the two.
Yeah, so gold lead now 1,200 in favor of FableGG. This is down to the first blood, as well as the couple of kills they got for themselves and the invasions on the red buff. That's going to be the biggest key for the moment. With Odin back in, though, bit of pressure on the right-hand side again. Blue buff not available just yet, up in about a minute's time. And not much farm really on the map at the moment. But that red buff is spawning for Elevate again. Do you expect to see another invasion?
No, I highly doubt that Fable are going to want to go for that one again. Instead, also we're going to look for Crimson in the mid lane.
Force out the ultimate, defensively used, and now the red buff invades coming through. Bad news bears, though. DoctorL, well aware of the situation, takes it down early, making sure FableGG can't find the win of getting some pressure onto the Camazotz.
Smart decision-making there as well by DoctorL. Could have potentially helped out Crimson in the mid lane and possibly even turned things around there with a counter engagement, but probably better off just prioritizing his team's farm, making sure that FableGG can't keep control of those respawn timers, and that just makes sure that Elevate doesn't have to be as cautious walking through their jungle during those buff spawns.
So what's the real game plan from Elevate's comp here, Taco? We mentioned this double assassin obviously on this team, and I know in a Terra, but what's the real idea behind it? What is the game plan? Is it just like nuke a target and get out?
This feels a lot like a heavy dive composition. Nexamiss can kind of force a separation factor to occur. Then you've got DoctorL with that Powwow ultimate on the dodge sheet that's going to be able to pull everybody back in, or at the very least burn some actives. And finally, that should give plenty of an opening for Crimson on this Camazotz to go in. I mean, he even went for the blink, so you just have to assume that he's going to be using that bat out of hell to just dive the backline off cooldown.
It's funny because even though they've got Beads Burner and DoctorL with the Powwow, it doesn't feel like they've got many other Beads Burners, realistically. A couple of slows and maybe a stun or two out of Terra is going to be a bit risky. But outside of that, there's not much CC chains, really.
Not much CC chain, but the assassins that they do have still tend to be single target assassins, and Elevate are really trying to just prioritize picks over team fights as a whole, and I think that's where the Odin gauge is really going to have to come up huge here. Nexamiss has to be able to separate the members of Fable, because if Fable are grouped up, Elevate will most likely lose every single team fight from the mid-game stage.
Well, experience standpoint at the moment, the only real difference is Waldrom's a little bit ahead of Crimson in the mid lane. Crimson been pressured early on, and that level lead will amount to something if Waldrom continues to farm. He is Janus after all, one of the easiest gods to farm on, really, with the ability to just walk through walls to get to that farm ever so quick.
I mean, we're starting to see a small amount of experience difference between the two, as Waldrom has been able to shift over to those back harpies a little bit more quickly than Crimson has the ability to do so. Speaking of which, though, Elevate looking as though they want to go for an invade themselves. Getting a little frisky here against Killian Davey.
But Davey already rolled back under the tower, so DoctorL just going to have to hold that one and take up the wave of farm. Nexamiss on this right-hand side, just trying to secure his own blue. Won't be the case, unfortunately. But Elevate exposed a weakness on the left-hand side here. Red buff spawned, and they themselves get to steal one away, answering that back. Waldrom under a lot of pressure there. Took way more damage than bargained for from DoctorL. Has to be very careful. Talk about being careful. Davey's in trouble.
And Davey's got to go up into the air. He's just trying to buy himself some time. Crimson, though, could end up falling in the mid lane. He does. Auzrik getting credit for that one. Also going to be able to run away from that Powwow, but Mr. White still takes out Davey on the back end.
So 1-for-1, mid lane goes down for Hunter, realistically, with how that one went. DoctorL in the mid just had to blink away there to safety as ChronicTheBros was doing some pressure. But here's Nexamiss against two. Ring is down. Nemesis in a lot of trouble here. Just trying to survive. The shield will help out, but a great portal from Waldrom. 4-on-1 is what ended up happening there. And that ain't an Odin that can stand that much of pain at this stage of the game.
There's only so much for Nexamiss to do, though. He already expended his bird bomb damage and dropped the cage, but there's just no one to follow up. Crimson had died just shortly before Nexamiss rotated, and of course you can kind of expect that Chronic's going to be pursuing the Odin wherever he's trying to rotate towards. And
I mean, he definitely got a taste for blood there, Nexamiss, because he turned up and went, oh, Auzrik's really low, I can keep him in my ring, and a couple of basics will do it, but he just didn't respect the other characters FableGG had around him to support and make sure that wasn't going to be the case. So a free kill in the end for FableGG.
And Elevate has been matching Fable for the most part, but I think that we're going to start seeing Waldrom slowly but surely start to continue pulling away even further from Crimson in terms of experience. I mean, he's already suffered 2 deaths, doesn't even have full stacks yet into the Hunter's Blessing, although that's prone to change probably the next time he goes into the mid lane. But Crimson has just not been able to have that early game impact that you're really looking for on the Camazotz.
Well, Auzrik, though, he's had a good impact so far. 3 kills, 1 assist, involved in every single one, showing that he's definitely involved. Nexamiss will secure his own blue this time around. There was no rotation out of Auzrik because he was focused on making sure they don't lose their own red. Obviously, Waldrom wants that red on the Janus, those extra bursts of damage from the unstable vortexes, and even the space and times, which will start to come online and swing sooner rather than later. Has the Chronos Pendant complete too?
I think right now all eyes are pretty much going to be on Mr. White. He's probably got the chance to do the most damage on his team, and at this rate, Elevate are definitely going to need Mr. White to stay as safe as possible, make sure that he continues to farm up and get some of those items online. Unsure of whether he's going to try and look for the Warlock staff here on the Soul.
One thing to mention with Elevate's comp here as well is, like, tower damage, you're really relying just on the Soul, you know, to try and swing away and do those basics, because, yeah, you've got 2 assassins, which are physical and, you know, will have the penetration to bring them down. Problem being, you're in melee range.
I'll admit it, Hindu. I hate this comp from Elevate.
It's not working out.
I think that this is a composition based purely around calculated chaos.
Yeah.
And it does scream a little bit of overconfidence. I think that that's just a standard that's been put in place because of the fact that NA in the past has notoriously just been better than EU.
Well, Nexamiss notoriously deep in the enemy jungle, looking to steal away the blue 9 of TV1, trying to use that extra Raven shout to his advantage. What will happen this time, though? ChronicTheBros will get his blue buff one more time, but back into the jungle, just proxy farming over and over again.
And Nexamiss needs to be careful that Auzrik doesn't decide to just turn and burn him, because with Waldrom having that through space and time available, Fable could very easily rotate over and look to punish this Odin.
That's a very good point. Waldrom not really using that space and time just yet, specifically towards this right-hand side, because one thing you have to do against the Janus is keep yourself in check. Just make sure that, you know, there's pressure elsewhere on the map, so you can't just go, well, I'm just going to Janus ult over, maybe bring a friend or two from the other lanes, and then it's going to be a quick death. But Gold Fury's looming. DoctorL around that Gold Fury now, looking towards Davey, and Davey under pressure yet again. Good juke of the shots from DoctorL, but he has to use the powwow as Auzrik came in and ults him too. But now DoctorL, the one in trouble.
And Auzrik going to be able to follow up though onto DoctorL. Davey gets the shot with the last hand on that Astral Barrage, and Mr. White's still going to end up falling, or excuse me, it's going to be Crimson taking out Auzrik on the back end there. Mr. White just helping to cut him off.
Yeah, that was just decision making from, at the end of the day, Auzrik of which direction to go in. So a bit of shutdown bonus there for Crimson to help catch him up in some of that golden experience he lost earlier on. Obviously, shutdown bonuses with a little bit. You know, he had 3 kills for himself there. And now that's not going to be the case. So FableGG find the kill, but got returned very quickly. Oracle's the way of Elevate now. Goldie still around the same.
Yeah, Auzrik had just ticked towards level 12 recently, so he didn't have a chance to back yet to buy those purification beads. Now that he has them online, we'll have some more survivability against that powwow. Also wouldn't be too surprised to see Fable maybe opting to pick up some early Magai's cloaks, because there really isn't a ton of CC from Elevate's current composition.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We'll see what Elevate can do. Mr. White getting aggressive under the tier 1 tower. Doesn't recognize that Janus is on the rotation, but Waldrom more focused on the farm. And we'll just make sure he takes down that purple buff. Auzrik going to go towards the mid lane and keep soaking up. Levels at the moment, nothing really huge difference. Although ChronicTheBros was level 15, he decided to fight the fire giant for a second, and that cost him his blue buff.
Smart trade out though by Nexamiss, because ChronicTheBros was taking Nexamiss's blue. He's kind of had a lot of control in this solo lane, and I like the recognition by Nexamiss, so he just immediately turns and heads straight up to Fable's blue, and well, that just makes sure that he still gets that 10% cooldown reduction and the mana buff.
Still a lot of pressure on the left-hand side here. Main focus has really been on red buff invades from both the two teams. And that's made the junglers just sit on this left-hand side a little bit more so. I guess as well, you know, with a Chulainn and, of course, an Odin on the right-hand side, it's going to be very hard for either of these two junglers to really make an impact over there.
But the spread of the map vision, I think, has been a little bit more in favor of Fable so far. I think this is actually one of the first times that Elevate's been able to secure the oracles for themselves, and even still, I wouldn't be too surprised to see Fable start hovering this Gold Fury area. We're really starting to approach that team fighting stage. Laning phases are going to be breaking apart soon enough, and it's going to be all about the grouping and seeing whether or not Elevate can truly make this pick composition shine.
Well, Auzrik was looking at a cheeky attempt at the Pyromancer there for a moment or two. Still doing it because he's got support of Killy, and now ChronicTheBros rotating over on the Chulainn. But look at this. Elevate heading towards the Gold Fury, trying to pull them off. Remember, space and time available for Waldrom. And the Pyromancer goes down, and that could be a full commit from Elevate now.
They have perfect vision, so Waldrom charging up that through space and time, not going to be able to find it, though. Gold Fury does fall in favor of Elevate, and Waldrom could end up dying as well.
Oh, he probably will unless he can get through that portal, but he pulls towards Mr. White, and Mr. White says, thank you very much. I'll take a free kill, but Auzrik going to use the portal to find Crimson. Doesn't want to stand and bang too long, and now he's in trouble out of mana too. ChronicTheBros trying to turn this around, but Crimson healed up. DoctorL gets a kill as well. This is crazy fight that FableGG are being routed on. The decision to try and contest the Gold Fury has come back to harm them even more so.
But ChronicTheBros is massive. He's level 16, and yet he's still not tanky enough to
Holy
avoid
moly.
this much of a commit. Elevate just finding the picks that they needed to one by one. The members of FableGG choosing to run in instead of staying grouped up.
And look at the graphs. You can just see how much of a swing that went for Elevate into their favor the first time they have led in this game. And in fairness, FableGG for the first 15 minutes were controlling this one. One bad team fight around the Gold Fury, and it's all gone wrong. They lose 2 towers in the left-hand side.
Elevate just had such strong disengage off of that Gold Fury because, sure, Waldrom's able to connect it through space and time onto 2 members. It clips Mr. White and Crimson, I believe, but that's still not enough damage to want to follow up. I think that Fable just had red in their eyes. They didn't think that they could just let the Gold Fury go for free.
Yep.
And sometimes you just have to hold that L.
Sometimes you do. I mean, you fight the space and time, you hope for the best, right? You hope for a steal. No one was really in position. Waldrom held it too long. And then after that, they still try and commit on a fight that wasn't necessarily going to be the best case scenario. And now we find a situation where Elevate control the game. Question is what they do next with it, because there's not many options really. Left-hand side is pretty much done. Maybe we should see Mr. White rotate towards mid now, put some pressure on that tier 1?
Possibly, especially since the towers are missing in duo. There's really not much reason for Mr. White to be sticking around. If anything, Mr. White being able to rotate is going to put Davey into a tight spot because he'll be forced to kind of be split between the decision of, do I try to help out my team and match their Hunter's rotation, or do I just stay in the lane split pushing because I need the farm? He's 2 levels behind now, Mr. White, and Mr. White also has just been a huge factor here in this game from Elevate. That's exactly what we were looking for from him pretty early on. We mentioned that we needed to see Mr. White stepping up here and being kind of a leading factor in this game, and I think he's definitely done so.
Every single kill has that soul. And that was the reason I was mentioning that. Wait a second. Crimson under some pressure. Going to box for a little bit. Jump away from the unstable vortex. Not going to have to use his ultimate just yet, but Elevate definitely looks like they want to fight. They're looking towards the red buff, which is currently down. But with that, they're just going to release the pressure. Going back to the dual lane again, though, you play a lot of Hunter. Is this the point that you should see the Hunter from Elevate rotate towards the other lanes now and start to apply pressure?
Yes.
But not like this, I guess.
Typically, you don't have the T2 tower by 16 minutes, don't get me wrong, but I do feel as though Mr. White is not going to want to linger around. Speaking of which, Nexamiss just going straight underneath the T1 tower with that Odin cage.
But a quick Phantom came through in space and time, hit Mr. White, and that is the biggest damage dealer on the team down. But still, Elevate going under the tower. Crimson gets down Waldrom already and flying around for the last swoop, looking for Auzrik, not going to find it. ChronicTheBros trying to pick someone up, but Crimson managed to get one. DoctorL goes down in trade, and now we've got ourselves a 3-on-3.
But this is going to be a full-on team fight. FableGG actually staying grouped for this one. Crimson still looking for more damage on the Davey in the back end, and Nexamiss trying to assist his Camazotz taking it all up, but Crimson doesn't have that bad of a hell. He might not be able to escape.
Oh, ChronicTheBros thinking about going under the tower. I think he could have dived that one taco. He is, after all, a Chulainn with some physical protection. But instead, Crimson's going to limp away and survive. FableGG punished the over-aggression from Elevate by giving themselves a tier 1 tower.
Fable have got to be careful, though. They're staying a little bit too long here. Nexamiss taking enough to survive.
Brings
He's got
up
that
again.
Odin cage again.
And in comes Crimson looking to Davey. Davey low on mana. Good leap to sustain back up from Crimson, but the damage is almost too much. The bird bomb out of Nexamiss will secure Davey. And now ChronicTheBros ever so low. In comes Crimson again, but he missed the shot he was after for the sustain in the end. Killy's going to get the kill with a long-ranged hammer.
The snipe from the Fafnir pretty much on the back end. I thought ChronicTheBros would get credit for that for sure. But 2 members of Fable just had to back. Davey's down and out for the count, so it's only going to be Auzrik and Waldrom left to try and defend this T1 in mid. And Mr. White on the soul.
That worked out well for Waldrom, actually. Like, he was trying to go for a bit of poke, I felt like, but he's cleared the way, so Mr. White can't get any tower pressure at all. Just dragging those minions, getting aggro from them away from the tier 1 tower will deny what I expected Elevate to get a tier 1 tower in response to that.
I thought for sure that Elevate would just follow Mr. White straight up the mid lane and look to return that T1 map pressure, but it's not going to be the case, at least not yet. Elevate will be able to get the Oracle control, though, over the Gold Fury. So.
And speaking of that Gold Fury, that's going to be important here. Tackle the last one goes in Elevate's favor. They win a big fight off. If they win this one the same way, it could spell a lot more trouble for Fable. This is a little bit closer than a lot of people expected.
But that team fight from Fable was actually really sound. Of course, I do think that that was a little bit too aggressive by Elevate. Nexamiss went fairly deep there. He did manage to bring out the Phantom, however, and I think that's going to be an important cooldown to keep track of. It is up, though, in another 5 seconds.
This is good zone work, though, from Elevate. Now Nexamiss and IAmTheHamster going to try and zone away FableGG. Space and time available for Waldrom. The last one he missed time. He needs to get better at that. But Nexamiss blinks in, gets the ring down on 2. Phantom used in response. Killy under a lot of pressure, but he'll be fine. The backside of the fight, though, Auzrik being chased out by DoctorL, and Crimson will get credit for that kill. Now it's a 4-on-5.
Auzrik's trying to go for the picks while Nexamiss is controlling his backline, but Auzrik just needs to be there to help control Nexamiss. He's had so much of a zoning impact here for Elevate, and FableGG are just getting split and picked apart.
No towers to fall back to on the left-hand side, and that just means 2 members from Elevate can do the Gold Fury. The rest of the team hunting for more kills. Killy's very low, but back in the Phoenix line, he'll be safe. Results are good for Elevate, though. They will get this Gold Fury. It'll take them a hot minute. At the same time as they may be able to get the red buff on their exit from FableGG's side of the map.
This is probably the first real lead that we're going to see in this match as well. I know that there have been a couple of 2K to 2,500 gold disparities between these two teams, but 5,000 or 4,000 gold and climbing, now we're starting to see some real advantages come into play for Elevate, and we're starting to see this the way that double assassin composition can shine, in that it's just so much damage.
And you talk about damage, you can see how much there was. Almost 6,000 from Elevate in that team fight to the almost 3,000 from Fable. So double the amount out of Elevate. Obviously, with 2 assassins and an Odin, you're going to swing. And then, of course, there's still a Soul. Pyromancer being stolen away as well. Space and time was a little bit too late from Waldrom there, but he had just respawned. Nexamiss going to drop the ring for good measure to make sure his team could just walk away safely. That's what's going to happen.
Hold on, though. Fable, they're just going to start pulling the Fire Giant. Everybody from Elevate has started to turn tail and run.
I like this call, Taco. I like it, but a couple of members of Elevate know what's going on. Focus onto Mr. White as the rest of his team is falling back. Elevate have to get back to this fight in time to support, and they do so. Nexamiss and DoctorL at the backline looking at Waldrom, who's out of the fight. Crimson giving chase. Meanwhile, though, Mr. White is going to go down to Davey as the 3-men of Fable Pound Town comes through, and the hamster falls. DoctorL finds the support. They relieve the pressure on the Fire Giant as Elevate now looking at ChronicTheBros, and will find him.
Nexamiss is hard carrying Elevate through every single one of these team fights so far. And don't get me wrong, I know that the guys from Elevate are probably going to be like, you can't give Nexamiss this much credit. His ego is already too big. But the Odin gameplay has been astounding from Nexamiss. His map awareness has been on point. He's been safely splitting everybody apart on Fable, because we saw like 3 different fights happening at once throughout that Fire Giant pit.
16-13 then. Fire Giant still stands, wasn't able to be taken by FableGG. The resulting team fight, you thought for a moment FableGG might come up big after that choice to go for the fire and then take a fight, but not to be. It just extended Elevate's lead ever so slightly more. Surprisingly, though, by how much action we've got, the support's only 14 at 23 minutes in, which is kind of standard, I guess, for how Smite is for supports.
It's just crazy, though, because you would think that that team fight would be FableGG all day long, especially when after 3 members are able to take out 2, and they've only lost Killy in the process.
And the Odin ring was down too. It was used just before the engagement.
But it just didn't really seem to make that much of a difference, because although Fable had the 2-for-1 advantage, at the same time, they also still needed to consider the fact that they were just too low.
Well, I thought we were going to see a man fight, but not to be, because there is support there. IAmTheHamster here. He's trying to take down Davey, helping out Mr. White, who's trying to use Disapparate to hide the best he can, using the fact the sticks are tricky with a Rama to try and juke out the ability, and does so well. IAmTheHamster gets the kill. Meanwhile, rest of Elevate pressuring mid in a 3v4.
But Nexamiss already dropped the cage. It's already got everybody spread apart. Phantom is going to be forced out of Fable, and that's going to be a really important cooldown to keep track of. Looks as though Nexamiss accidentally blinked, by the way, in the mid lane.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised that Fable didn't take that fight. I mean, it was a 3-on-4. Why don't you just use that man advantage, pick a target, eliminate it, then it's a 2-on-4 if you do it that way around.
They don't have the same sort of damage to match. All they really have is Auzrik on the Nemesis, and after that ultimate is used, if you don't find a pick, you're probably not going to be able to do much with it after.
25 minutes approach, and the Fire Giant is being leashed by Elevate here. Auzrik being forced out the right by DoctorL. Killy trying to get involved. And ChronicTheBros going to make sure he pulls them off the Fire Giant. Focus on him instead. The fight on the right-hand side, though, very interesting to see that the Paolo off the mark from DoctorL has to blink away to safety. Main thing is, Fire Giant's still alive. Nexamiss is a little bit far forward on his own here.
Doesn't even matter, though, because he still has that Odin ring, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Crimson coming through for backup. IAmTheHamster and Mr. Wyatt look to secure the Fire Giant, and Waldrom having expended the through space and time means that Fable know they can't contest.
No, it's too little too late now. Waldrom in the mid lane under pressure from Crimson. Fire Giant took a hell of a long time, but it still goes the way of Elevate, extending their lead, and now gives him some more important regen and tower shred potential. Just be able to bring down those structures a little bit quicker.
And Fable kind of just keep getting trap guarded by this Odin. And Nexamiss, every single time he runs at 4 people, Fable are grouping on top of each other and all getting stuck inside of a cage, having to either use the Phantom early on, and that's just going to mean that Nexamiss is going to drop it in like another 40 seconds, or you try to fight him and you don't end up killing him because he's an Odin and he's level 20 and he's way too tanky to kill.
Well, we interviewed the Fable guys a little bit earlier on, and they were talking. Well, that's a nice ult. No one saw that. Don't worry, we didn't catch that on camera. It was for show only. No one look at Crimson. We didn't see that. But going back to Fable, I mean, we interviewed them a little bit earlier on today, and they were talking about how life was for themselves. Wow, really, cameraman? That's mean. That's mean. I like it. I like mean. I'm not generally a mean guy, but the cameraman can be. Remember that. FableGG came in here saying we need to talk about communication and make sure communication is on point to make sure we do well here. And I feel the first 15 minutes of the game from Fable were very solid, if not better than that of Elevate. But when it came to team fights and the objectives, it's kind of fallen off.
Even after the 15-minute mark, I think there have been some very promising moments from Fable. It's just that they always seem to come up short. It's right as things are starting to go more in their favor, Elevate just happens to break them apart one more time and look for the necessary damage against some of their squishier gods. I think that Davey has been using this Astral Barrage a little bit too late as more of a cleanup factor as opposed to just like a damaging factor for Auzrik. Whoever Auzrik is ulting should be the only target Fable are committing to.
And that's the funny thing is, like, with a Nemesis, you are looking for that target, because when you ult with Nemesis, you are kill this person, they are weakened, they are slowed, they are reduced protections, blow them up. I guess the one thing about FableGG's comp, though, is that they don't have that much confirmable damage outside of maybe the Rama ult or the Janus sniping unstable Vortex. They lack that a little bit in the grand scheme of things. Next up, though, is what Elevate do next. Because all the towers are currently down. They're going to get the red buff first of all. They've got a bit of time with this Fire Giant now. More than likely left-hand side tackle. We generally always see teams go to the left.
Yeah, and it's hard to have too many gripes with the Janus choice because, I mean, it's Janus. It's hard not to prioritize him in a competitive level of play.
I just don't think he put much pressure on the other side lanes at the start, you know, when he could have.
I think it's just the Nemesis pick. You want to see, like, a big bursty mage behind that, and Janus, sure, he's got the unstable Vortex and through space and time, but outside of that, his team fighting potential and it can be a little bit lackluster here, especially since Elevate's composition is based entirely around the 1v1 situation.
Well, we're going to get a 4-on-4 side, I should say a 3-on-4 on the left-hand side, because DoctorL and Nexamiss actually hanging out in mid now, looking towards Auzrik. Trying to keep the pressure on here. The Phoenix in mid, been chipped away a little bit by a couple of minions. Auzrik just trying to make sure that they don't get this Phoenix for free. The rest of the team having to defend the left. So it's all about waiting for the right opportunity if you're Fable here.
Well, Fable are going to have to sacrifice their mid-Phoenix either way. They're looking to take out Mr. White almost immediately, but the disapparates is buying Mr. White so much time.
But how much time is going to be needed? Oh, he drops the ultimate as soon as he turns out to disapparate, goes down in trade. But 3 members of FableGG are already dead. Make that 4. Davey 1-1-0. Goodbye 8 is going to fall, followed by ChronicTheBros. A quick deicide and a defense that went wrong from Fable.
Elevate just now realizing they don't even need to take out that left-hand Phoenix. There's already a wave pushing in the mid lane.
Yep.
Well, Titan just killed it, but they won't even need it. With everybody dead from Fable for so long, this is going to be a quick and easy game 1 for Elevate.
Funny enough, Tucker, I feel that was like 17 minutes of, if not Fable, in the lead, and then all of a sudden, things started to go in Elevate's favor. Kind of came down to that Golf Fury more than anything else. That first one seemed to dictate what was going to happen from then on out.
I feel as though Fable got a little bit lost in their team composition. I don't think that they were properly utilizing their draft, although you could see that there was a clear concept behind it, that they wanted to use that Janus selection for rotating their team around pretty quickly, but Waldrom was just really having a difficult time finding the right moment to do so. I think that Elevate just had very strong pressure all throughout.
Well, some adjustments going to be needed from Fable here. Quite a few little things for them. But Elevate, more importantly, find that win. Who do you think was MVP? Congratulations for you guys on voting on the right team, by the way. Because I thought it was a little bit closer than people were giving it credit for at first.
I think that there's a lot of promise still, though, to be had from this Fable team. They're clearly a team that have done a little bit of their homework, at least to prepare for some of these North American teams that they're going to be facing off against. And I also feel as though all of their scrim time with Rival has really paid off because they look pretty strong.
Well, that was only game 1, and we saw Camazotz in the mid lane. What else we got to look forward to? We'll find out picks and bans for game 2. First of all, though, let's head to the desk. Finch and Tolly standing by.
Thank you, Hindu and Taco. Elevate are going to be able to come away with game 1, but it wasn't maybe as easy as the difference in experience might have led you to believe. Fable certainly looked strong in this game, but what was it that helped Elevate get over that hump, Tolly?
There was many points where Elevate bounced back into it after their early invade that backfired very heavily. They tried to go for the red buff. That's where Fable responded in kind. The mobility from Janus, we alluded to it, would allow the counter aggression to really pursue Elevate's aggression, but Fable could never really transition in the mid-game objectively. It was all Elevate. There were so many different times where there was objectives to be had, towers or gold furies, but it was Elevate that was being able to go on top of it. And during the pregame interviews, I really thought for sure Elevate was going to play standard here. But they come in here with a Camazotz middle, and I'm a little surprised by that, considering that...
No Hunter,
Yeah, there was no Hunter. They're a more consistent team that's been able to dominate the North American side. They're up against Fable Europe, where they thought they were going to have to handle the cheese, but they brought it out themselves.
It is